Hello and welcome to West Wales and welcome to another spin and chat. And today I am spinning these lovely little rolags for a project to make a shrug. If you've not been here before, my name is Becca and you're very welcome to my slightly echoey conservatory and my home in West Wales. If you're an old friend, lovely to have you back. So the project I'm spinning for today is to make another version of this, which is a shrug. I found it incredibly useful and I really want another one in a different colourway. I'm going to link a copy of the pattern. It was on Ravelry, called Verdant. I do apologise, I can't remember who the designer is, but I will link it anyway. One of the reasons I think this is a great project if you are a hand spinner and you want a knitting project is that you pretty much don't have to actually get a particularly accurate gauge because it's just a knitted rectangle. So, or oblong. Rectangle or oblong? I don't know. What do you say normally? I think I say rectangle, but oblong or rectangle. And you can therefore use bits and bobs like I have to get stripes, or you could get something really exciting. You could kind of do different patterns if you wanted to. You can use maybe some of your not perfect, not completely consistent yarn, because basically you just knit it to the length you want it. And I like 3/4 length sleeves, so I just sort of knitted it so my sleeves were at 3/4 length. And it's got a nice little kind of detail bit here, and then obviously you can have the rest of it. Well, I mean, you could have all of it the same colour, but I've gone for using a plain kind of for the detail, so I think a type of moss stitch, and then I put stripes in. But for the next one, I want to have plain here and then use these kind of coloured rolags that I carded up a few days ago, and yeah, that's the plan. So grab your knitting or spinning or whatever it is that you're doing, and let's get the wheel out and have a little play. I'm spinning as ever on my mid-1980s Ashford traditional with the original flyer. So I have two whirls giving me two ratios. And I know if I spin on this slightly bigger ratio, and I can't remember if it's 6.5 to 1 or 7 to 1, and if you spin on an Ashford of this age, you'll probably remember, then I get around about an Aran weight. And if you are new to spinning, if you are using a new to you wheel, or maybe it's a wheel you don't spin on very often, then a spinning control card is a great way of making sure that you're going to get to gauge or kind of there or thereabouts. Right, so I have very little tension on at the moment because I'm just trying to get this established because I have a really, really short leader. And at some point, I will sort it out and make a longer leader. If you want a video on how to attach a leader, then Bex at the Tiny Fibre Studio has a really good video on how to do it. Okay, so let's just slow the treadling down. And I've turned the tension up so it's pulling in a bit more, but I think I probably need to turn it up a little bit more. And I'm just going to get my spinning control card out and just see where I'm getting to. So Aran weight is kind of 8 to 10, and I quite often get I suppose 11, so somewhere in between, but yeah, it's kind of there or thereabouts. Because this pattern is so forgiving, I really don't have to be particularly kind of accurate, and I can let some suds go through and I don't have to be particularly consistent, and I will get a result that is going to look fine. Okay, let me just change the camera angle so you can see a little bit more what my hands are doing and what the wheel is doing. But before I do that, I'm actually going to do a ply back test. and just see if I've got this tension right, because I feel like I want to turn it up a little bit. A bit pigtaily, yes. Let's turn the tension up so the fibre or the yarn is being drawn onto the bobbin a little more quickly. So I'm not having so much twist. So hopefully I'm going to end up with a nice balanced yarn that's not going to be over twisted and rope-like. It's going to be nice for knitting. Now it's got a few lumps and bumps in it because there is quite a lot of recycled sari silk in this particular blend. So it's not going to be kind of the finest of spins. It's going to be a little bit textured. And I kind of like that. Right, let's just see how that's now looking. Yeah, still a bit pigtaily, so scooch it up again. Right, this feels about right. Now I sometimes have to remind myself not to treadle so fast. And I think it's sort of quite often at the beginning of a spin, before I've really established the rhythm, I am treadling a bit fast. So I have to kind of just calm myself down, get out of my head, into my hands, and just start feeling the spin, feeling what the fiber's doing, feeling what the wheel is doing. Right, let's just see how that is looking. So how's that going back? I think I might have turned it up a little bit too much. Yeah, not quite enough twist going in. So I'm going to turn it down so it's sort of back where it was. Sorry, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat, so I might have to stop and go and have a drink in a minute, but we'll see. Oh, went a bit thin there. Right, okay. I'm feeling like it's nearly there. Sometimes I can kind of get it instantly, and other times I just need to spin a bit and kind of go up and down with the tension until it gets to be about right. Yep, I think that's about right. Okay, I'm going to go in a bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. I made these rolags on my blending board, and they're sort of a mixture of greys and pinks, and then I added in some sari silk, as I said, and they're kind of yeah, I think they're going to work quite well. I did a test spin, which is on the channel, using these sort of greys, and I added quite a lot of sort of reds, and I liked it, but I felt like it needed a bit more. So I added some other things basically. So a bit of teal, a bit of sort of burgundy-ish red, and as I say, quite a lot of sari silk. So it's going to be quite textured, and it isn't the easiest thing to draft because the sari silk is in fairly kind of largish bits. I mean, I could have really spread it out and made the sari silk a much sort of finer amount, but I like the idea of a bit of texture. So that is how I'm doing it. So what I'm doing is a short forward draw, I guess we'll call it, and a semi-worsted spin, meaning that the preparation of the fibre is a woolen preparation, but the spin is a worsted style of spin because I'm flattening down the fibres and I'm not letting the twist run into the drafting triangle. So I'm getting a very smooth yarn. quite dense yarn, but just because it's got that air in it, because of the way I prepared it, and also because it's got these slightly lumpy, bumpy bits of recycled sari silk in it, it's going to have enough air in that I think it's going to be absolutely fine for that shrug. I mean, that shrug is fairly drapey anyway, so I think it's going to work. And oh well, if it doesn't, I'll just use the yarn for something else, which is, you know, fine, isn't it? Doesn't really matter. So as ever, please let me know what you're working on. Always like to know. Always good to hear what other folks are working on. And if you have any hints or tips that you think maybe I haven't mentioned or that would be useful for newer hand spinners, then please put them in the comments. I was very, very grateful for all the comments I got on my video where I was using my hand combs for, it was about the third time, but I kind of hadn't quite got it right, and I knew I hadn't quite got it right. But with the advice of what I'm calling the Fibre Arts hive mind, I got it. And when I make my video about the Lincoln Longwool, yeah, try and say that fast 3 times, Lincoln Longwool, then I shall show you. And you'll be able to see I've come on in leaps and bounds, and the dizzing is just so easy now. I was really struggling with sort of the diz and trying to get it dizzed off, but yeah, working brilliantly. So thank you for all those wonderful tips. They really were helpful, and I will share some of them when I make that video. So I'm sort of in the process of making 2 videos at the moment, because I went out hedge bothering, as Sally Pointer calls it, doing my impression of a hedge monkey. And I was doing that yesterday. No, I wasn't. I was doing that this morning, because actually, for the first time in days and days and days, it wasn't absolutely hammering down with rain. Because it has been a very wet autumn here. I mean, it's often wet in the autumn here. We have very long autumns. Because we're on the coast, it doesn't get really, really cold until, well, never really, but the coldest it gets, and that isn't very cold, is after Christmas, so sort of January time. Occasionally we have a cold snap in November, but more often than not, it's just kind of windy, rainy, but quite warm. And in fact, it's so warm that I am lighting the fire at about 5:30, and then by 7 o'clock, I'm just letting it burn out because it's getting too hot. We kind of need that little boost of heat, but by the time, you know, kind of I've cooked dinner and the kind of we've been sat in the living room for a little while, it's more than warm enough. So I don't put anything else on and just let it burn out, which I certainly can't do in January. You know, January time, I'm probably lighting the fire as soon as I get up. But this time of the year, absolutely not. Right. Well, this is quite a lumpy, bumpy spin, but I kind of like it. I think it's going to look great. Now, I want a solid colour for those cuffs, but I didn't want to choose the solid colour until I had spun this up and knitted up a sample, and then I will decide what solid colour to go with. I mean, I've got an idea in my head that it'll probably just be sort of a greyish, a pinkish grey, but, you know, until I actually see what this looks like, I don't really know. And I will, of course, make sure that I finish it and put a knitted sample at the end of the video so you can see what it looks like knitted up. Lots of people have told me that it's really useful to see how it looks knitted up. So I will do that. I'm sort of on a bit of a roll with videos at the moment. I seem to be making one every 2 days. And I said in my last video, I don't suppose that's going to last, but well, it lasts, you know. I'm enjoying it. But something will happen and I'll need to go and do something else. And, you know, I won't be able to keep that pace up. But at the moment, it's absolutely fine. And, you know, I was toying with the idea of doing Vlogmas because this is November and obviously December is not very far away. But I think I probably won't. I sort of then put pressure on myself and I don't want to do that. So, you know. And also, I do think about Vlogmas and I think, well, I just do the same things pretty much every day. You know, I kind of get up, get ready for the day, assist Andrew, go for a walk with the dog, come back, kind of do a bit of housework. Then this time of the day, sit down, do a bit of kind of spinning or fibre prep or whatever it is. I have this sort of about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, where I can just sort of sit and play with wool. And then I have to think about walking the dog and making evening meal and, you know, kind of lighting the fire and getting on with those things. And then once we've had our evening meal, I like to sit in front of, I don't know, something silly on the telly and knit or darn. I've been darning socks. I'm wearing a pair of Andrew's socks because the only pair of clean socks I have that I went to put on that were actually mine need darning. So I stole a pair of his. And considering that I do make quite a lot of my own socks, really you'd think I'd have an endless supply, but in the kind of in the washing cycle, I was down to one clean pair, and I hadn't realised that there was a little bit of a hole. So I'll be doing a bit of darning. So last night I was enjoying Yanta's channel and she was making socks. Always love to see other people's sock making, how they spin for socks. Thought it was great. I never actually know what her channel's called. I think it might be, the name of her channel might be Flemish. I mean, I kind of know what it looks like and I kind of look at it and think, I just don't even know how to begin to pronounce that. So I will link her channel in the description. And if you haven't come across Yanta, she has a lovely channel, a very woolly channel. I mean, she does a few other things sometimes, but mostly woolly, hand spinning, knitting. She's been doing some natural dyeing, and she is a delight. So yeah, I really enjoyed her sock spinning video. Must have been yesterday. Was it out yesterday? Oh, I don't know. I lose track of time. That is one of the things about being self-employed, is that you kind of, it's very easy to lose where the weekends are, if that makes sense. Because I don't have a official weekend. I mean, I try to have an official weekend, but it doesn't really work out. And yeah, I kind of quite often not 100% sure what the day of the week is. So what else can I tell you about this particular blend? So it is a mixture, as I say, of wool and silky stuff, and mostly recycled sari silk, but there was some other silky stuff in there as well. Then things from the stash, so some naturally dyed wool that was from, where was it from? Oh, come on, engage brain. Where was it from? Cambrian Wool, which is the local co-op that supports farmers in Mid Wales to carry on with their traditional farming methods, being hill farmers, and they are mule sheep, meaning they are crossed between the Welsh mountain sheep, and the ram is a blue-faced Lister. And oh, I've got something a bit nylon-y in there. I mean, yeah, that will be from the recycled sari silk. Don't want that. Go away. Right. What was I saying? Yeah, so there will also be some randomness from just about the last of my millens. And I was sharing this in one of the videos I made recently. I kind of went through this whole period where I was buying millens, and I'm so over it. So, yeah, I've got a few bits and bobs left of that. So I'm including the bits and bobs in these projects. And it's good fun, but you know, I want to do something different now. I kind of, as I say, I've been there, done that with the mill ends, ready to try some new things, do some different techniques. This was a really fat, chunky rolag. So I started off talking about hedge bothering, didn't I? And what was I collecting? Well, you will see. And it's going to be another one of my videos in the series about sort of basic techniques for natural dyeing. So rather than doing, you know, kind of this is how you dye with X or this is how you dye with Y, these are the techniques that will get you started on your natural dyeing journey. So if you have never tried it before, if you do these kind of few steps, then you will get some good results. And you can then just go and experiment with the huge number of plants that are out there in the world that create colours, some more successfully than others, but you know, there is no substitute for experimenting and playing yourself. So Andrew's going to think this is very hippie-ish when I can see what's kind of going on the bobbin, and I can just hear him rolling his eyes and just kind of going, "Oh, you're such a hippie." It's like, yes, and what are you, my darling? The man who went back to university to do a degree in sustainable forestry. What are you? So there you go. Anyway, I really like the way this is looking on the bobbin. And I've got a bit more to go. And then I'll be plying. But I'm not going to get it all done in the space of my sort of hour and a half that I have to spin this afternoon. And of course the light's going this time of the year. We are still losing the light, which is a bit annoying for making videos, because although I can steal Andrew's lighting kit for his photography, it isn't brilliant for making videos. At some point I will kind of buy what they call a softbox, which would be much better, so that I will be able to make videos as we lose the light. I mean, it's really not an issue any other time of the year other than now. But one of the things I think always surprises people who don't live in the UK, and I think particularly people who live in the States when they come and visit, if they visit this time of the year, is that it's wet and it's really dark. I mean, if you live in Northern Europe, you kind of, you get it, you're used to it. But if you don't live in Northern Europe and you come here, it's like, oh my goodness, it's dark by 4:30. I mean, I might be wrong about that. I don't know. If you live in New York, then on that sort of part of the US, or maybe if you live on the east coast of Canada, maybe it's the same. I mean, I guess if you are up in Alaska, then, you know, that's a whole other game, isn't it? You know, that's just kind of, that's hours and hours where you don't have sunlight. I guess it depends how far north you are. But I know from watching YouTube videos, when a lot of people who live in the States come to the UK, they say, oh my goodness, it's so dark. It's so wet. It's like, yeah, but you know, you get used to it. So if you live in the Southern Hemisphere, of course, you are in a completely different season. And they're shearing at the moment. So, my goodness, very different. But we here in the UK are kind of bracing ourselves for cold, wet, windiness. Cold, wet, windy and dark. I can cope with dark and cold, but cold, wet, windy and dark, it's just like, oh no, just please stop. Not all of them all at once. So I think this is actually going to be quite a chunky spin. I think it might be a bit chunkier than Aran weight, but I don't really mind. As I say, it's a very forgiving knitting pattern, so I will just play around with needle sizes and yeah, just go for it. One thing I will say is if you have never knitted with handspun before, it is so important to do your tension square or your gauge square. And I never remember kind of what part of the globe says tension square and what part of the globe says gauge square, so I'll say both. And, you know, do a nice big one so that you can really work out how many stitches per inch or per 10 centimeters, or, you know, kind of whatever the pattern tells you to do, because it will make your life so much easier. So my other job that I am halfway through, and I will finish it fairly soon, is writing November's newsletter. And I have also done a little freebie for November's newsletter. So if you want to join the newsletter, I will make sure that if you join it before the newsletter goes out, you get the freebie with the newsletter. Then if you join the newsletter after the newsletter has gone out, you will get the freebie when you sign up. This month's freebie is a yarn tag, and it's got some of my wonky art on one side and just a little bit of sort of typing on the others, so you can put on your wraps per inch, your yardage or meterage or weight, or, you know, however it is that you like to record, and when you spun it, and kind of all sorts of good things like that. So as I say, that will go out in November's newsletter. Then if that newsletter has gone out when you sign up for the newsletter, you will get it as a freebie. And as I have already discussed in several videos this week, I am very bad at actually getting the newsletter out at the same date each month. So it ends up being mid-month-ish. And as discussed many times before, one of the reasons I don't particularly want to kind of go kind of whole hog YouTube business is that then I would actually have to kind of get newsletters out on time and have uploads on the same day at the same time, and kind of turn up and be a responsible adult, as I much prefer being a slightly irresponsible, slightly chaotic non-YouTuber on YouTube, if that makes sense. Okay, that feels like it's been a really long time, so I am going to carry on with this, and I will come back to you when it is plied up and knitted up so that you can see what it looks like. Ta-da! And here is our finished sample. So it ended up at 9 wraps per inch, which is absolutely in the kind of the middle for Aran weight. So Aran weight is between 8 and 10 wraps per inch. So very happy with that. And I'm really, really happy with the way it looks. And probably for the solid colour, I'm just going to kind of do this sort of grey mid-tone as my solid colour for the cuffs. I really hope you can hear me because it is raging outside. We've got the latest storm just hit us and the roof sounds like it's, I don't know, maybe about to fall in with the amount of rain that's on it. I have kind of set the settings on the phone so that hopefully you can't hear too much of it, but I apologise if you can. Anyway, so yeah, that's how it turned out. Very happy with that. I'm going to carry on with the spin and I will see you in the next video.